This is Lama Tantrapa. Welcome to our video broadcast. Today we're going to cover the most effective strength training method. That's right. Many people who study Qigong and other energy arts don't really think that it has anything to do with strength training. But in fact, generations of people who practiced Qigong in the good old days dedicated a fair amount of time and energy to becoming stronger, not only energetically, but also physically. In fact, physical strength and energetic strength often go hand in hand. Let me explain. Most people think that Qigong is supposed to be all metaphysical, but it actually needs to be physical because you're dealing with a physical body, you're dealing with channeling energy through your physical body. What happens when you don't give any attention to your physical body? Well, if you don't use it, you lose it. You're not going to lose your physical body entirely, but you lose strength, you lose mobility, you lose flexibility, and you lose endurance. Basically, all the components of fitness and wellness deteriorate if you don't give any training to your physical body to get stronger. So, what's the alternative? Well, the alternative is to actually dedicate a fair amount of time and energy building your strength and also developing greater cardio capabilities, improve your endurance, and develop energy awareness so that you would be able to combine these practices with the energy arts. Now, what would be a good example of people doing exactly that? Well, how about the famous Shaolin monks? You've probably heard of Shaolin monks, or maybe even met a few. And I personally met quite a number of Shaolin monks, trained some of them, and also I have a student who is the executive director of the Shaolin Life organization. In other words, I'm somewhat familiar with the methods and the techniques of training among Shaolin monks and similar Buddhist organizations. I also lived in a number of Buddhist monasteries myself, so I've been exposed to all kinds of training, including the most amazing strength training routine or regimen that the Shaolin monks and other Buddhist monks have been dedicating their time to. Now, without going into the details of this routine, it's suffice to say that those monks are pretty strong folks. In other words, they don't lift weights, they don't have any exercise machines in their monasteries, and they are extremely strong. How is it possible? It's possible because they combine the strength training with energy arts. Shaolin Qigong is obviously a very intense type of Qigong training, which you may be able to enjoy, or even if you feel like it's a little bit too intense for you, I have an alternative that I would be able to offer to you as well. And what that's going to do for you, it's going to create an ability to strengthen the body without having to go to the gym, without having to sign up for gym membership, without having to travel to the gym, because obviously if you travel to the gym, it takes time. It takes go to the locker room, change into workout clothes, work out, obviously, and then go back to the locker room to change back, maybe take a shower, travel back home or wherever you go after the gym. That's a tremendous amount of time. Who has this amount of time nowadays? Another thing that also happens, and that's probably even a more important thing to consider, is that even if you do dedicate time and energy to go to the gym and receive personal training or just simply work out using some weights or exercise machines, a funny thing occurs. A majority of people who go to the gym and work out there focus their attention on those muscles they see in the mirror. That's right. You see only front of your body in the mirror. And so most people actually end up training those muscles that are in front of their bodies, such as the pecs the chest muscles, the biceps, the front of the deltoid muscle, the anterior deltoid, the upper trapezius, the abs, the quads. In other words, those muscles that are easy to see in the mirror. Those muscles that are not so easy to see, the lower trapezius, or posterior deltoids, or even triceps. And I'm not even talking about all the muscles of the back. The rhomboids, the QLs, the iliacostalis, the erector spinae. All of those muscles often are disregarded, or simply people don't even know that they exist. So they don't train them. What happens as a result? They become relatively weak. In other words, if you train the muscles in the front of your body, but you don't give as much attention to the muscles in the back, what happens? The muscles in the front will become stronger, and the muscles in the back will not be as strong. Now, if you imagine that this is the spine, and this is the front, that's the back. If the muscles of the front are stronger than the back muscles, they basically are competing with each other. And the stronger muscles in the front will most likely win. They will pull the spine over into the flexion. Now, what happens is very interesting. The muscles of the back that prove to be weaker actually will have to do more work now, because the weight of the torso is no longer supported by the aligned bone structure of the spine. In order to compensate for that misalignment, the muscles will have to kick in and do that which bones normally would do without any work. They just need to be in place. However, if the bones are not in place, if the muscles of the front actually prevailed over the muscles of the back, what happens? The back muscles have to work harder, because if they don't do the work, you will just collapse forward. The gravity will pull you down. If you don't get pulled down by gravity or squashed like a jellyfish on the beach, that is because you are using some strength of the muscles to keep you from collapsing. Now, those muscles will have to work all the time. In other words, they're going to be constantly overworked. Which muscles are those? They are not the strong muscles in the front, they are the muscles in the back. When muscles are overworked and underpaid, they don't just stay quiet. They send signals to the central nervous system. Hey, what's up with this? I have to work so hard and I'm not getting any stronger. Why? Because holding tension does not strengthen the muscles as much as contracting and relaxing. That's what we do when we exercise. That's how we train the muscles to get stronger. You contract and relax. You can go fast, you can go slowly, but you don't just hold. And that's exactly what these muscles end up doing if you develop imbalance between the strength in the front and in the back. So what happens is that often people end up somewhat slouch or protruding the head forward as a result of this tension. For example, tension in the pec muscles and the chest muscles will pull the shoulders somewhat forward. And if there is more strength in the muscles of the front, the abs, everybody wants to have six-pack abs for some reason. But they're not training the muscles of the back equally. So the abs that attach to the rib cage and sternum will literally pull the sternum down. Now what happens when they pull the sternum down? It again creates a slouch, misalignment position of the upper back. The muscles of the upper back and the lower back, they're all basically the same muscles. It's the same longest muscle group in the body called the erector spinae. They have to work a lot and they are not going to be happy. That's the reason why so many people have back pain. Not because those muscles are strong. Tense muscles are weak muscles. Weak muscles are tense muscles. Those muscles that are too tense all the time are going to complain. Obviously, they have to work hard. Muscles are never as strong as bones. If the bones can do their work effortlessly, as long as they're stacked up, muscles have to work to perform the same function, and they burn energy, and then they get tired, and then they get sore and painful, and they also create energy blockages. And when they create energy blockages, what happens? Well, the energy doesn't flow freely through the energy pathways in that part of the body that's been blocked, which wreaks havoc in your health. So the energy arts actually can benefit a great deal from strength training, because when you strengthen those muscles that are weak, they basically compensate the strength of the muscles on the other side of the body. For example, the back versus the front. That means you experience better postural alignment. That means the weight of the body can rest on the skeleton, on the spine, instead of using the muscles to compensate for that misalignment. That means that stronger muscle now can relax. As it relaxes, it doesn't create energy blockage. That means the energy can flow more freely through that part of the body that is now relaxed, which obviously will contribute to greater health. Those people who have postural misalignments or undue tension in their bodies, and hence energy blockages, trying to do energy exercises or any type of Qigong practices often leads to adding insult to injury, so to speak. Basically, you're trying to push the energy through the blockage rather than doing what intelligent people would do, removing the blockage out of the way so the energy can flow freely. Instead of pushing the rope, pushing the envelope, so to speak, trying to make the energy go where we think it should go, and then wondering why in hell is it not going where I want it to go, or why I experience some energetic constipation, so to speak. There's very likely possibility, if we're forcing the circulation of energy without removing the energy blockages, to create the energy stagnation on one side of the blockage and energy deficiency on the other side. It's just like a river. If you dam it, you're going to create a pool of water on one side of the dam, and obviously less water will be trickling down the stream on the other side of the dam. What we need to do is we need to remove the dam. We need to remove the cause of this energy issue. But the root cause of it is that there is an energetic imbalance because the tense muscles don't allow the energy to flow freely. Energy doesn't flow through tense tissues and muscles very well. What do we need to do? We need to address the root cause instead of trying to push the energy where we think it should go. So, this is just simple explanation of how the energy arts and strength training support each other. Now, it also goes the other way. The energy training and strength training can also work with each other in a way that your strength becomes greater if you add energy component to strength training. That's why I don't do regular strength training. I don't lift any weights. I don't use any exercise machines. In fact, I used to own the first privately owned health club in Moscow, Russia, back in the 90s. I didn't even have any machines in the health club. What I did was using a very unique and very specific type of strength training that doesn't require any machines. And it's not even body weight based. It does not even use any type of push-ups, any yoga exercises, any planks, any pull-ups, none of that. It will be something that you probably will discover for yourself and say, wait a moment, how come I didn't know about this? This is something that needs to be taught to every kindergartner, which is pretty much the age when I started learning this. So, as you can imagine, I've been doing this for over 40 years, and my strength has been increasing year after year. Interestingly enough, I'm stronger now. I'm almost 50. I'm stronger now than I was in my 20s. It's something that not a lot of people can claim to have. And that's something that I attribute specifically to this method of training that I would like to share with you. So, in our next broadcast, I will actually share with you more details about the opportunity to get started with this strength training method, and also invite you to participate in the new program that I've developed. That's right, I've developed a new program specifically designed for strength training using our methodology that applies both the most intelligent way of doing strength training with the energy arts, integrating those two in a seamless manner that creates the most effective way to improve your strength as well as endurance. That's right. Endurance is another component of fitness and wellness. And when people focus on strength all the time, they actually don't improve their endurance very much. Why? Because it's two different types of training. Strength usually comes in the form of anaerobic exercise. In other words, you put a significant amount of effort into lifting something or moving something in a short amount of time. And this short amount of time isn't enough for the blood to provide more oxygen to the muscles from the lungs if you start breathing harder. The energy comes from the ATP, the energy stored in the muscle tissue itself. That's why we call it anaerobic exercise. It doesn't rely on breathing. Now, once you spend more than a few minutes or just 2-3 minutes doing an exercise, you definitely will start breathing harder, maybe even sooner than that, depending on your state of fitness. And that's okay. That means that your blood gets saturated with more oxygen, and that oxygen is supplied to your muscles. Muscles are receiving more energy from oxygen. That is aerobic regime. Aerobic regime is what contributes to endurance, as opposed to anaerobic regime is what contributes to strength. Now, what happens is that most people, when they practice one type of exercise, they get only that type of benefit. So if you do strength training, you get strength because you're doing anaerobic regime of training. If you are switching to aerobic regime, you get endurance, but not strength. What we have is a method that allows you to achieve both. That's right. You can actually get the best of both worlds because the method that I teach and practice actually allows you to experience both the anaerobic and aerobic regime of training condensed in one exercise routine. And there is another important benefit, and that is if you've ever worked out, lifted weights, used some exercise machines, or did whatever exercises you did, often likely you experienced some tension after the workout. In other words, most people who lift weights wake up the following morning sore and stiff. And that soreness and stiffness is something that obviously restricts their range of motion. The flexibility becomes less instead of more. Now, who wants to become less flexible? Very few people want to become less flexible. 99.9% of people I know say they would like to become more flexible, not less. Now, if you're doing strength training, it's very likely that you will suffer a reduced flexibility. Except one method of training that I'm talking about that actually allows you to improve your flexibility at the same time as becoming stronger. Why? Because we engage in the full range of motion during the exercise, which means we don't just move like this. For example, biceps curl. This is a limited range of motion, a very jerky start-stop movement that basically doesn't even feel great to do. I call it a disharmonious culture of movement. And that, by the way, is the reason, or one of the main reasons, why people don't stick with exercise routines. They don't stick with New Year's resolutions to go to the gym and get stronger or healthier or more fit. Why? Because the disharmonious culture movement doesn't feel good when you engage in doing it. But unfortunately, that's the only culture of movement that most people are familiar with. If you try to do it, your body actually revolts. You literally feel like you can't stand it anymore, and so you quit. And that's the reason why in February or even late January, most of the gyms become emptier and emptier. After the influx of new members that happens in the beginning of January, people get sick and tired of this uncomfortable, disharmonious exercise routines. And so they just stop going to the gym. No wonder there is an epidemic of obesity in this country, and worldwide, as a matter of fact. It's because there is very little knowledge of how to move in a more harmonious way. So another aspect of Qigong that we weave into our strength training practice is in applying harmonious culture movement. By harmonious culture movement, I mean a smoother, more circular, rather than jerky start-stop linear motion. What does it do for you? It engages you in a more pleasant way of movement that integrates rather than compartmentalizes the different parts of the body. By compartmentalizing, I mean if you go to a gym and hire a personal trainer, virtually each and every trainer will tell you to isolate specific muscles that you're working on. What does that mean? It means you're isolating a particular part of the body that you're going to move in a disjointed manner. It means you are not moving in a harmonious fashion. By harmonious, I mean integrating the entire body so that you're not moving one arm isolated from the movement of the other arm. In Tai Chi, there is the maxim, or the principle, that you don't move one finger without moving your whole body, and vice versa. You don't engage the movement of the body without moving a finger. Now, what does it mean? It means that you're actually working on whole body power. What does that do for you? It makes you more powerful as the whole organism, not just an isolated part of the body, which is exactly what leads to imbalances, as we discussed in the very beginning of this broadcast. The imbalances happen when you isolate the muscles of one part of the body, most likely the one that you see in the mirror, and give attention to those muscles so that they become stronger. But if the rest of the body isn't receiving as much attention, you essentially create more imbalance in your system. What do we need? We need to create more balance. We need to actually focus on integration rather than separation or compartmentalization of our organism. That means your entire organism will be able to participate in this training, including your mind. That's right, the mind and body are not two separate items. They're not two distinct entities. It's the same organism integrated into one, and energy serves as the glue. It's the easiest way to explain it, I think, is by looking at the coin, the heads and tails. The heads may be representing the mind, the tails representing the body. Now, instead of just paying attention to one side of the coin or the other side, we actually look at the coin as a whole. And what is it that keeps the heads and tails together? Well, that's the stuff that the coin is made of. So we are talking about life force, the energy that you, my friend, are made of. You're an energy being. And energy is that stuff of the coin that keeps the heads and tails together, the mind and body together in one living organism. Without life force, you wouldn't experience that integration of mind and body. Sometimes mind and body are not quite fully integrated though. If you look at many of the coins in your pocket or in your wallet, you may actually find probably a few or maybe 100% of them that are not minted in alignment. In other words, the heads and tails are not in alignment. You can turn the coin and you will see that the heads are either upside down in relation to the tails or at some weird angle. If the coins are minted like that in this country and many other countries throughout the world, that means people just don't pay any attention. They're not paying attention to that representation of the mind and body that we were just talking about. Well, if the proverbial coin is crooked, what can you say about organism in which the mind and body are not in alignment? It's not going to function well, right? So what are we going to do? Is we're also going to integrate the mind and body in this unified system of training that I'm going to offer to you, and I'm going to share in our next video broadcast. I'm going to do it later this week, so you won't have to wait for too long. I want to thank you very much for participating in our video broadcast, and I will look forward to seeing you again. So